Why did Jimin suddenly cancel his trip with Jungkook just because of Taehyung's presence? Are there old wounds that have not healed? Or is this the beginning of the emotional split that has been covered by BTS from ARMY? Jimin cancels Jungkook because of Taehyung? Shocking moment at airport sparks speculation of BTS friendship cracking. There was a sentence hanging in the air, right in the middle of the hustle and bustle of Incheon Airport on July 31st, 2025. Why isn't Jimin there? A simple question, but it has tremendous emotional weight when two legendary figures from BTS, Kim Taehyung, V, and Jungkook, appear side by side for the first time in a long time. Both looked ready to travel to the United States to attend a prestigious international fashion event. But of the many who cheered for the duo's return to the public, some were suddenly silent, staring at the phone screen with a heart of reproach. Jimin was not present. In fact, he is rumored to be coming along. What's going on behind the scenes at BTS? Why did only Taehyung and Jungkook show up at the airport, while Jimin, who was originally rumored to be leaving, suddenly disappeared from the departure list? And even more curious, why is it that when Taehyung's name is again associated with Jungkook, it's Jimin's name that disappears? The ARMY, which has been living amid the happiness of a post-draft reunion, has now been hit by a new storm of speculation. Jimin and Jungkook, a duo known for being close, emotional, and understanding each other even without words, are suddenly like an invisible distance apart. Where did the ties go? What happens when the camera is no longer on? Did Taehyung have a role in Jimin's shocking decision? There are rumors that are starting to gain strength on social media. Not a few fans swear to see the cold interaction between Jimin and Taehyung in the last few broadcasts. In fact, some pieces of the video feature Jimin's blank stare as Taehyung's name is mentioned in a positive context with Jungkook. Is this just a coincidence, or a real signal that the relationship of the three is no longer as warm as it used to be? It was reported that Jimin was preparing to fly to the United States with Jungkook. His outfit was even caught on camera by HYB staff, hanging neatly in the artist's preparation room. But just a few hours before departure, Jimin canceled all plans. There is no official explanation, no statement from the agency, only silence and thousands of question marks hanging over the heads of fans. Taehyung's presence at the airport seemed too fitting with Jimin's disappearance from the schedule. Is it true that Jimin chose to withdraw because he knew Taehyung would be on the same plane? If so, what kind of wound is still not healed between them? And does Jungkook know the real reason behind his close friend's decision? Some analysts of Korean pop culture refer to this event as a silent fracture, an emotional crack that is inaudible, but very pronounced. It's not about who's wrong. It's about feeling held back for too long, said one senior entertainment journalist who has been following BTS's journey since 2013. The relationship between Jungkook and Jimin has been known to be very deep. They often shared support, even tears. So, Jimin's decision to leave Jungkook on this big trip is not something that can be taken lightly. Moreover, this is not an ordinary trip. This was their first public appearance after enlistment and an unwritten statement about who was with whom. Surprisingly, when asked about his feelings on leaving for the US, Jungkook looked awkward. "I'm happy, can go with old friends," he said with a slight smile, but his eyes could not hide something. And when Jimin's name was called by the reporter, his facial expression changed quickly, as if there was a memory too heavy to talk about in the open. Meanwhile, Taehyung seems friendly, even taking one of the reporters to walk with him, reminiscing about his career journey since his debut. But behind his charismatic smile, the public wondered, did he realize that his presence was precisely the reason a friend chose not to come? There was a photo that went viral, not because of the glitz or visual appearance, but because of the absence of someone who should be there. Jungkook stood next to Taehyung, but the empty space on the other side seemed to scream that someone was missing from the story. And the empty space was named Jimin, ARMY trying to find clues. Some pay attention to Wever's activity. Jimin was last active at about 2:15 in the morning, writing only one word: tomorrow. What was originally thought to be a code word that he was leaving has now become a painful riddle. Tomorrow? Or sorted out, as if to say that he was done with the plan. Are we witnessing the beginning of the biggest emotional conflict in BTS history? Or is this just part of HYB's silent strategy of hiding the story for the sake of preserving the image? It is possible that Jimin and Taehyung experienced tension during preparations for the group's planned comeback in spring 2026. Some sources say that the differences in artistic vision and feelings that have not been conveyed since the time of the draft make their interaction no longer as intimate as it used to be. But is it true that a difference of opinion can make someone cancel an international departure just because someone else is taking part? And the biggest question that now looms is, where is Jungkook's position in all this? He looks close to Taehyung, even looks comfortable when he is at the airport together. But isn't he also the one who has always stood by Jimin all this time? Some fans began to split in half. Some defended Taehyung, saying that it was unfair to associate his presence with Jimin's absence. But there are also those who begin to question, is this the beginning of an internal drama that has been covered with smiles and a grandiose stage? What was Jimin really thinking when he decided not to leave? Is he holding back hurt feelings? Or try to keep your distance from conflicts that can no longer be resolved with a short conversation? One thing is certain, these events are not just about attendance and absenteeism. It's about relationships, a feeling that may no longer be the same. And about an empty space that now feels bigger than just a line at the airport. And the final question that is now rumbling in the hearts of every army around the world is, if Jimin chose to retreat in order to avoid Taehyung, then what really happened between the three of them? But is all of this just a coincidence? Or is it really a big story trying to be obscured? Wouldn't it be too strange if an idol of Jimin's caliber, known for being full of responsibility and almost never disappointing the public schedule, suddenly disappeared from important travel plans without a single official explanation, without a single word on the part of the agency? More and more, the smell of conspiracy is felt. HYB remains silent, while fan accounts and discussion forums continue to smolder, discussing every little move of these three big names: Jimin, Jungkook, and Taehyung. Even some viral posts mentioned that Jimin's decision to cancel was not only because Taehyung was going to attend, but because of something Taehyung said the day before. A short video from Taehyung's live broadcast, which took place the day before his departure, has now been re-highlighted by fans with detective-like precision. In the footage, Taehyung is seen casually answering fans' questions, to the point of one sentence almost drowning between laughter and background music. There are people who like to pretend to be close, when he himself keeps his distance. Was it directed at Jimin? No names mentioned. But the timing, the atmosphere, and the expression on Taehyung's face when he said it convinced many people it was not a loose sentence without meaning. Especially if you look at the history of their relationship, which since 2021 has seemed to experience an up-and-down phase several times. There were moments of extreme intimacy in front of the camera, but there were also quiet phases when they didn't offend each other on social media for months. Jungkook himself is now in the most difficult position. He's always trying to be the link. But this time, the silence felt like a burden. Some media even mentioned that his smile at the airport looked heavy. And this further confirms that there is something that he knows, but he cannot convey. One of the inside sources claiming to be a technical staff at HYB sparked further furor via the X account with cryptic statements. If only you knew what really happened during the studio briefing last week, the decision was not about work, but about feelings. It didn't take long for theories to surface. Some say that during the last meeting before departure, there was a small argument between Taehyung and Jimin. Jungkook is called to mediate, but ultimately cannot persuade Jimin to stay. Some even claim that one of the senior managers heard Jimin say, "If he comes, I'm not going anywhere." Sentences that make all the speculation can no longer be broken by diplomatic answers such as personal schedule or health reasons. Are we witnessing another side of BTS that has never been made public? All this time, their relationship was described as ideal as possible. But don't all relationships, even the strongest ones, have their own wounds and conflicts? Meanwhile, the public spotlight began to grow. Some foreign media even began to highlight Jimin's absence as a sign of potential tension in BTS comeback plans next year. If internal relations do not recover, will the album promised in the spring of 2026 be delayed? Is it possible that Jimin chose to focus on a solo career and keep his distance from overly complicated group dynamics? Interestingly, as ARMY began digging into old interactions, some found that since early July 2025, Jimin and Taehyung have no longer liked each other's posts on Weverse or Instagram. To outsiders, this may seem a trifle. But for ARMY, who has been following BTS for over a decade, it's no small thing. It's a painful, subtle alarm. And again, the figure of Jungkook becomes the center of the storm. He is innocent, but seems to be the trigger of two poles colliding. Some call it too neutral. Some felt he should have preferred to stand by Jimin's side, who had already shown support since his debut. But others said, isn't Jungkook entitled to decide for himself who he wants to be with right now? The emotional drama heats up when Jimin, in an interview recorded a week before the airport incident but only released today, says a sentence that now feels much deeper in meaning. Sometimes we don't lose someone because of time, but because of a deliberate distance, even if it's never said. Is it a subtle recognition that he feels abandoned? Or that he himself chose to stay away? What about Taehyung? She is still on schedule in the US with Jungkook, appearing full of confidence in photo sessions and interviews with major fashion houses of the world. But that confidence is now overshadowed by the question, is it true that he does not know the impact of his presence on Jimin's decision? And that question continues to resonate, not just among fans, but in the hearts of everyone who once believed that BTS was home to 7 inseparable brothers. But even a house can crack without sound. And if the crack starts with Jimin's silence, then Taehyung's presence and Jungkook's indecision, will their foundation survive? What will happen when they get back together for a comeback album? Will we witness a tearful reconciliation? Or is it a surprise decision that will change everything? And behind all that, one main question still hangs in the air. No one has yet been able to answer it. What exactly did Taehyung say to Jungkook to make Jimin cancel everything? But as it turned out, the truth that had been covered up slowly began to slip out. Not from the mouths of the members, not from official statements, but from those behind the scenes who could no longer bear the weight of the secret. One of HYB's staffs who has been known to be loyal suddenly shared a shocking story in a closed forum, which was later leaked to social media. In his quickly viral writing, he mentioned one sentence that shook. Jimin cried that night. Not because he didn't want to go, but because of something he heard from behind the training room door. The sentence immediately sparked chaos in ARMY discussions around the world. What did Jimin really hear? Who's talking in that room? And why can such a personal cry be the trigger for the cancellation of an important trip that has been prepared for a long time? According to the staff, 2 days before departure, Jimin, Jungkook, and Taehyung were at HYB's rehearsal building for a light preparation session and technical evaluation ahead of the fashion show. However, something goes unplanned. Taehyung and Jungkook enter the rehearsal room first, while Jimin arrives late and stands outside, unaware of his presence. What he heard in the room was never fully revealed, but according to the staff, Jimin's facial expression after exiting the hallway, pale, silent, and with his eyes glazed over, told more than enough. He said he no longer entered the room and chose to leave the building early. From then on, communication between the three of them was completely cut off. IT is suspected that what was discussed in the room was not just a technical stage or performance plan, but a matter of feeling. Some suspect Taehyung revealed his old feelings to Jungkook about his feelings for the group dynamics and about someone he thought had changed since before enlistment. And the name that came up in that conversation was probably Jimin. If that's true, then this is no longer just a difference in schedule or busyness. It's an old wound that finally broke after being held for years. Perhaps Jimin felt betrayed, or at least not defended by the one he thought understood him best, Jungkook. Shortly after this rumor spread, one of BTS's former choreographers wrote something that seemed to reinforce the speculation. The most painful thing is not being left behind, but when you know the person you trust is letting your name be called, without a single defense. Is this an implicit message for Jungkook? Is this a voice from Jimin's side that he can no longer speak directly? Adding to the complexity of the situation, a video shot from a fashion event in the USA shows a moment that is no less emotionally disturbing. When asked by the international media about his feelings about performing with Taehyung again, Jungkook smiled slightly, then said, "We both have a long history. There are things that don't need to be explained to the public." The sentence is ambiguous, but implies many things. But the most shocking came at the end of the interview, when one of the reporters asked, "Will the three of you be present together at the next BTS show?" Jungkook's answer? Just silence. He stared at the reporter for a few seconds, then lowered his head with a deep sigh and replied, "I hope so." Hope, not a certainty. And for the army, which had been accustomed to the full solidarity of the 7 members, the word was like a shadow of something that had begun to crack. Meanwhile, Jimin again appeared on social media with a picture of a sunset and a short caption, "Not all trips have to be lived together." Thousands of comments filled the post, most asking questions, begging for clarification, even crying. But Jimin, as usual, did not explain anything. He lets his feelings speak through gestures, not words. Hint after hint further strengthens the suspicion that the emotional relationship between Jimin, Jungkook, and Taehyung is going through a very precarious phase. Perhaps this is not open hostility. Probably no screaming, no harsh words. But precisely because of this situation feels much more painful. Because the most tormenting thing is silence, and the world began to wonder, if 3 people whom we had always considered inseparable brothers could have a rift like this, then how fragile are the relationships that we all build in our own lives? Fans around the world began sending open letters to HYB, pleading for the 3 to be given space to mend their relationship. Some even set out to create a #ReuniteJungkookV campaign, hoping there would be a moment where the trio showed up together again. Not for work, but to prove that the flavor hasn't died. But until when should we wait? Will BTS's comeback in 2026 be a moment of reconciliation, or will it be a farewell stage wrapped in fake smiles? One of the most touching things came from a 14-year-old army man who wrote on a forum, "If they need time, I'll wait." But do not let us believe that everything is fine, when in reality their hearts are moving away from each other. And that sentence seems to reflect the feelings of millions of other fans. As more than just fans, ARMY is a witness to the journey, is part of the growth, and is the keeper of the emotions born of the sincerity of their relationship. Now all eyes are on their next move. Will Jimin stay away? Will Jungkook choose to explain his position? And is Taehyung willing to turn over a new leaf, or just keep his feelings deep as he has been doing? Because in the end, it all comes back to one fundamental question. If love and brotherhood ever unite them on the world stage, are the wounds and misunderstandings also strong enough to separate them? However, who would have thought that behind this silent conflict that drains emotions, there is a figure who actually bears the heaviest burden as the oldest Hyung, Kim Seokjin, or what we know as Jin. After a long silence since his discharge from the military, Jin finally appeared in a limited interview with Korean media to discuss BTS's comeback plans. But it's not the words about the album or the production that are in the spotlight, but rather one short sentence that just came out of his lips, like a small crack that split the dam of emotions. They are young, but sometimes the young can also be hurt the most. It didn't take long before fans began to associate this phrase with a situation of 3 names that are now at the center of an emotional storm: Jimin, Jungkook, and Taehyung. Jin didn't say a name, but his tone, the look in his eyes, and the pause he took before the sentence came out seemed to confirm that he knew what was going on. He saw, he felt, and he was trying to contain the collapse of something they had built for over a decade. At the same time, other news began to spread among HYB staff that Jin had contacted Jimin personally and had even invited him to dinner together at his house. Jimin reportedly accepted the invitation, but only lasted for 47 minutes before he said goodbye and went home with the excuse that there was a sudden affair. According to one of the internal sources, Jin looked frustrated but resigned after Jimin's departure. He said, "If this continues, I'm afraid they won't be able to sit at one table for the recording of the album." Meanwhile, RM, as the leader of BTS, was also secretly rumored to have intervened. He is known to be preparing a closed-door meeting between the three members, an emotional mediation that he himself initiated without the intervention of the agency. RM even postponed one of his solo schedules in order to be able to attend the meeting, which was planned to take place next week, at a private villa in Jeju that they used to rest. And here comes another important role, J-Hope. Although so far he has not appeared much in the midst of conflict, he is said to be the only member who has managed to maintain communication with the three. According to a leak from a hairdresser they subscribe to, J-Hope is often the bridge that sends messages from Jimin to Jungkook, or from Taehyung to RM, without making the situation any hotter. He doesn't talk much, but he hears everything, the staffer said. And when everything was about to explode, it was hobbyists who said, "Let me try to calm them down one by one." The question is now, will these Hyung's efforts be strong enough to reunite the